As sometimes happens in life, two coincidental things happened. The first thing that happened was um, I talked with a guy I know. I wouldn't say he's a good friend of mine. I worked with him for a few years, and I like him. I respect him. And he was just checking in. I hadn't talked to him for probably a year and a half. Anyway, I know when I was working with him, he had gotten divorced a couple of years before that. And after we got the pleasantries out of the way, and I asked him what he's been doing, and he said, "Oh, well, I've been working." And he says, "I'm trying to date again." And I said, "Oh, yeah, how's that working out? Because he's 50, he's 54, I think. He's 54, and so he hasn't been in a relationship. He hasn't been on a date even since he was divorced, and that was 4 or 5 years ago, I think." So I said, "Yeah, how's that going?" He said, "Not well." Not well at all, really. He said, it's really unbelievably hard to date later in life." He said, "I didn't think that it would be that big a deal, but it's a huge, huge mountain to climb." He said, and I find that when I'm talking to a woman on a date, a lot of the women, they seem very suspicious of my motives, and they seem like they have a fair amount of anger and resentment regarding their last relationship, whether that was a marriage or some long-term monogamous relationship. And they have all these rules, all these things that that they require in a relationship, and they want to tell you about this like immediately. They want to tell you on the first date, and these are like hard and fast rules. He said, they're showstoppers. I mean, if you go up against one of these and you're on the wrong side of it, it's that's it. You're not going any further. He said, and a lot of them are what I believe to be nice women, but the conversations that you have with them are like kind of fraught with you know a sub-layer of antagonism. Like I said, they're suspicious, and I said, "Oh, no kidding, really?" I said, "That's weird." He said, "Yeah, yeah. It doesn't make for a very friendly encounter. Maybe it gets better, the first or the second date." Um, he said, "I don't know. I don't know. It's and they feel no hesitation in criticizing what they see as some problems that you might have, some shortcomings." Um, he said, "Hey, I'm in my 50s. I have a certain communication style at this point." He said, and it's not going to change. And so for some of these women, it's not good enough. It's not a good enough communication style. And I've been told a couple times already that I'm too negative. and you know, a woman said something to me on a date, and I said, no, that's not right. And she said to me, oh, you're one of those guys that love to make women wrong. You just want them to be wrong. You can stay on top in the relationship. And so the whole time he's telling me this, I'm like, wow. This doesn't sound like any fun at all. I mean, this does not sound like fun. And he says it's no fun. You know, I have to ask myself, is it worth it? I mean, not just this part. Suppose he said suppose I get through this part, the terrible dating part, and I get into a relationship. He said there's all these things that I'm really particular about, and it's obvious now that women my age are also very, very particular about what they want and where they want to go and how they want to be talked to and how they want to talk to you and you know, there's no one, and he said, and I'm guilty of this too, no one wants to compromise. They want to do what they want to do, what makes them feel, you know, good, what makes them feel okay, what makes them happy. He said, and I'm the same way. He said, so how is that going to last, you know? How is that going to last? I said, I don't know. I don't have an answer. I don't know how that's going to last. He said, well, he said, I know your wife is younger than you. I said, yeah, quite a bit, yeah. He said, but didn't you go out with a woman you're, you know, the same age as you before that? Weren't you in a long-term relationship? And I said, yeah. Yeah. Actually, she was a little older than me, not much, just a little. He said, well, why did that go away? And I said, well, I don't want to throw fuel on your fire here, but for all the reasons you just mentioned. She wanted to be alone a lot more than she was alone when she was with me. And I said, in fact, fairly quickly, you know, she said, well, we should just live nearby each other and see each other once in a while. That's the kind of relationship I want. And I said, well, okay, is that a relationship? Well, so we'll just be like eternally dating? She said, call it whatever you want. That's what I'm interested in. And, you know, she knew what she wanted, and that's what she was going for. And there wasn't a lack of passion or a lack of emotion. You know, she loved me, I loved her. But it became obvious that there was just no way that there was going to be a meeting of the minds or the hearts, I guess. And so I told him this, and he said, I don't know, man. I don't think this is worth it. I don't think it's certainly not worth it now, he said. And I don't think it's worth it even if it develops into a relationship, because it's just going to be lots of, you know, unhappiness, mostly unhappiness, punctuated by what, you know, some small moments of happiness or joy or whatever. I said, I don't know what to tell you. I can't read the tea leaves. I don't know what's going to happen. I said, maybe what you described is what's going to happen, but maybe you'll meet the love of your life. I said, I don't know. And then he said, I know guys that have married someone from another country, younger, like you. And I said, well, I didn't intend to do that. I wasn't, I was just in the country with a client. I wasn't online looking, anything like that. That was just, happenstance. He said, well, it doesn't matter though how it happened, right? It happened and you're happy. I said, yeah, I'm really happy. Yeah. He said, so, maybe I should do that. I said, look, man, I can't tell you if that's going to work for you. I said, do you even want, do you want a relationship? I guess that's the main question. Do you want someone that cares for you, and do you want someone to care about you? Is that what you want, or do you just want to be by yourself and enjoy your life? Because you said it's not worth the hassle, and maybe it isn't. I said I lived alone for a long time. It was great. I'm not saying the way I live now isn't great. It's great too. But maybe that's what you want to do. Maybe you're just trying to get in a relationship because you have that expectation yourself, or society has it, or whatever. I don't know. He said, no, I'd like to have somebody special in my life. He said, I'm really, really considering doing that thing, the online, meet someone online, someone that's younger, that's not bitter, that's not stuck in their ways, that's not angry at men and all the ways they've been messed over by a man. I said, okay, well, I don't know if you're going to find that person, but okay. Yeah, you have agency, you have autonomy. You can do whatever you want, right? You can do that. That's what you want to do. He said, I don't know, man. I'm thinking about it. I said, okay. All right, well, and then we talk about something else, which cars. For a little while, and then we ended the call. Okay. Now, what's the other part of this? Well, the other part of this is the very next day. The next day, 24, not even 24 hours later, I read this study by the University of Michigan. And in this study, they concluded that 50%, or a little over 50% actually, half of American women aged 50 to 80. Now, 50 is not that old. 80 is really old, okay? But, you're not doing much at 80. Most 80-year-olds are not doing much. Most 50-year-olds are doing a lot. They're pretty active still. They're still working. They've got a pretty vital life, right? Men and women. And so 50% of women 50 to 80 years old, they say that their needs for physical intimacy are met. Their needs for physical intimacy are met simply by cuddling. No sex, just cuddling, hugging, lying next to each other on the couch watching television, whatever. And I was just like, wow. Because I'm telling you, I mean, I'm 68, and that would not meet my needs now. And it sure as heck wouldn't have met them when I was 50. And I don't know any 50-year-old, I've never known any 50-year-old guys who would say, that's okay. Hey, sign me up for that. That's great. Yeah, that's the kind of relationship I want. So if you've got, right off the bat, if you've got 50% of women, you're trying to date in your 50s and 60s, and you got 50% of women saying, no, 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 none of that, none of that, none of that sex stuff, no sex, just cuddling. That's what I want. That's what makes me happy. What, man, that's a big mismatch. You know, that is a big mismatch. It's such a big mismatch that really I just find it hard to believe. I find it hard to believe the results of that study. Now, it was not broken out by age group, by smaller age cohorts within the 50 to 80, at least not what I saw. Perhaps the whole study is, and maybe 55-year-olds have more desire than 50%. I don't know, but boy, that's a pretty tough obstacle to overcome right there. If you're a guy and you're interested in that, and I have to tell you, I want to belabor the obvious, guys are interested in that, and that knocks out a big percentage of the prospects for a long-term relationship right there. So I didn't read that till after the day after I got off the phone call with him. But I don't know, if I had read that the day before, I might have given him, I might have, the conversation might have gone a little differently. I'm telling you. It's not. I mean, I understand where he's coming from. When he's saying women are, they're kind of resentful and bitter. Well, hey, lots of men are too at that age. They feel like they've been messed with. They feel like they've been taken advantage of. They've had their hearts broken, whatever. They're gun shy, just like the women are. So it's kind of a bad situation. You have these two people, right? And they both, want something, right? And they're just like circling each other, warily circling each other. Is this person, is there a possibility? Is this person, are they just going to be more of the same? They're going to hurt me? Is this just another dead end? Or is this the real thing? And so I shouldn't, I shouldn't be so dismissive of the chances. So they're, the man and the woman, they're both doing that. It's a tough scenario. It's a tough dating scene there when you get older. I don't envy anybody that's in it. So, anyway, those are my thoughts for today on that. It's a coincidence, but two things that kind of dovetail together, huh?